I'm going to call this meeting of the City Council Public Safety and Emergency Services Committee to order. I'm John Sharp, 6th District City Councilman, Chair of the committee. To my right is Councilman Jermaine Reed from the 3rd District, the Vice Chair of the committee. To my immediate left is Councilman Michael Brooks from the 5th District, a member of the committee. And to my further left is Councilman Scott Taylor from the 6th District at large, also a member of the committee. And I see we've been joined today by our former colleague, the Honorable Terry Riley, and it's so good to see you back.
That's his opinion, but
well, that was a split vote, but
there will be a presentation on Aim for Peace by staff.
Well, welcome. I'll turn it over to you folks to decide who goes first.
Good morning, Councilman Chair Sharp and other committee members. Dr. Rex Archer, Director of Health, Kansas City, Missouri. I have with me on the far right Tracy McClendon Cole, who is our Justice Peace Coordinator, including the Aim for Peace program, and somebody that doesn't really need introductions, Major L. Thank you for asking us to come before you to kind of update on the Aim for Peace program and some of the progress that we've been making. I think as I kind of open this up, there are a couple things to think about. I mean, we have a vision statement which talks about Aim for Peace is a team of first responders who take proactive action to prevent, disrupt, and limit the spread of violence, especially retaliatory violence. Now, when you talk about the spread of violence, one of the reasons that Aim for Peace has a strong place in our department is changing social norms, working on the spread of whether it's infectious diseases or various unhealthy behaviors is something that we apply public health principles to all the time. You know, if somebody was to light up a cigarette here in this room right now, there would be a lot of social looks at the individual. That social norm has changed tremendously over the last 15, 20 years. In fact, to the point now where the majority of folks in their own homes, if they have a non-smoker in that home, do not smoke in their own home now, that they will go outside. So that's the power of social change as we work on these issues. The other part that's really important in our kind of core mission is that we work with community partners, and we have a number of those partners here today that would like to share some of their experience in working with this program. And we work with them to interrupt the spread of the violence, especially retaliatory violence, to change behaviors of the victims, but also the offenders and those around them that in various ways either support that behavior or can reduce that behavior, and change the overall norms. One of the things about violence in particular that has some similarities to some other things that sometimes we don't always think about, like when you have heart attacks, there are lots of causes to a heart attack. And yes, smoking increases the risk of heart attacks, and so does high blood pressure, and so does cholesterol, so does trans fats, but so does poverty, so does lack of education. So does unemployment. These factors are part of this equation, and we have to be working on all of them if we're going to move something forward. The strategies that Aim for Peace employs is our street intervention workers who do direct case management with the high-risk folks that are identified in a particular community. They help them to work through other ways to handle conflict and frustration and the issues that can lead them to violence. The violence interrupters which are those first responders that not infrequently may be actually called upon by the police department, that when they go out and there's nothing they can really arrest or deal with, and Major L will talk a little bit more about that, our folks show up to help talk people down, to find alternative ways to handle that. So we do street mediation, which is critical. We also do hospital mediation, and folks from Truman Medical Centers will be here to talk a little bit more about that. But obviously, when somebody has been involved with and has had trauma to them, the chances that they may be thinking about retaliation, or their family or friends may be thinking about retaliation, and that needs to be talked down right then in the hospital, in the emergency room. So with that, I think I'll kind of turn it over to, I don't know if Major L is going to go next, or...
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity once again to come here and talk about Aim for Peace. I've been involved with the program since its inception. As a going on 29-year member of the police department, I've seen a lot in terms of crime, violent crime in particular. In 4 years and a month that I spent as a commander over violent crimes and commanding the homicide unit, robbery unit, special victims, I've seen my share of horrific crimes and homicides in the city. During that time is when we began to look at homicides and violent crime in particular and what we could do. And as you all know, Aim for Peace was a result of the 2005 Commission on Violent Crimes report, which came out the following year after the commission was convened by former City Councilman and Mayor Pro Tem Alvin Brooks. Since that time, we have continued to work closely with Chicago, formerly known as Ceasefire, now Cure for Violence, and with Tracy's leadership and Dr. Archer's leadership, I think we've gotten a long way. We continue, unfortunately, to see the epidemic of violence in our community, in particular the African-American community where the majority of these homicides are occurring. And the police department, Jackson County prosecutors, our federal partners, we continue to be very, very tenacious in our law enforcement strategies and identifying individuals, locations, and within that area of violence that we can target specific individuals. But each year we still continue to see over 100 homicides in Kansas City. So we know that we cannot continue to lock our way up. Aim for Peace gets in with those high-risk individuals and deal with the root causes of their behavior. And as long as they're able to have cognitive transformation, we feel that they're able to transform and make a decision and change in their life. And during the last few years, we've had, there have been a number of times where I personally have been aware of a situation, got a hold to Aim for Peace to ask them to come in where we felt either violence had occurred or was imminent that it would occur. And in the cases where it has occurred, it's the retaliation aspect that we fear most. And the other one, it would be the fact that we need someone who can get in, talk with individuals, and able to reason with them to try to talk them out of committing an act of violence. We've also, since that time, Tracy's been very ambitious in going forward and meeting with sectors within East Patrol and the team, so we can get more referrals through officers who are aware of situations that I may not be aware of, or that may come up to my level, or when I'm out in the field that I actually see that were referred to them that they can come in. But unfortunately, what we struggle with is coverage. With resources here in the city are very, very tight and scarce, so we would like to have had the opportunity to tell you that we've been able to extend it into other zones, but we've been primarily focusing in East Patrol within the 330 sector. And within the 330 sector, along with the efforts of not only the police department, Aim for Peace, individuals, community organizations, we have seen a reduction in violent crime in that area, and I could positively say within that area where they focused that Aim for Peace has contributed to the success in reducing crime, in particular violent crimes and homicides. And thank you once again for giving me that opportunity to come here and speak to you today.
Thank you.
Likewise, thank you for the opportunity to speak. We definitely appreciate all of our community partners, and I do not want to delay any other time, but one of the things that has been stressed is that we work with our community partners to identify high-risk individuals, but beyond that, the whole focus is on curing violence in terms of looking at it from a disease perspective. How can we limit the spread, especially retaliatory violence? And then, more importantly, how can we work to change together the behavior of both the victim offenders and those around them. And working with our community partners, we've begun to see some of that change. I welcome our community partners to come to the podium and testify in 2 minutes or less about their particular perspective with Aim for Peace, starting with the Vice Principal at Central Academy of Excellence, Mr. Shelton.
Coach, I'm not going to do a lap today either, man.
Thank you, Jermaine. Again, I'd like to thank you, too, and I'd like to thank Aim for Peace. It's been great working with them over the last 3 years. One of the things we discovered when we went over to Central, that there was a lot of violence, and a lot of it came from the Internet. Kids would come in over the weekend. A lot of stuff was continuing to happen in the school that was actually began outside the school. So as administrators, we sat down and we said, what can we do about that? And then somebody mentioned Aim for Peace. So we called them in. And from day one, they have been highly effective with our kids and with our community. In fact, they're so effective that we have parents that call us up and say, can we have a mediation at Central with Aim for Peace? And the kids even requested it at times. And so we're really happy with what they've done. They come in, they speak with the kids, we bring the parents in. The parents sit down and just with the conversation, just with what they have to say, on and on and on again, listening to the kids, working out the situation. They get to the bottom line issue and it gets worked out. And I can honestly say that with Aim for Peace, we have not seen multiple repeats of disturbances that had been taking place prior to Aim for Peace coming to our school. So we want to say thank you. And yes, Jermaine, you can run a lap.
Yeah, he was my coach, track coach. He would make me run those laps. Oh, man. No track up in here, though.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. I'd also like to call up Mr. Larry Collins with the YMCA.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Larry Collins. I represent the Linwood Family YMCA, located across the street from Central High School. I'm the outreach director there. I'm in charge of youth development. I pretty much second what Mr. Sheldon said. About a year ago, I did a career day for my children, and I called Aim for Peace in as part of that career day. And they did such a fabulous job that I forged a partnership with them and started to use them for my programming. One piece that's embedded in my programming is a nonviolent conflict resolution. So they come and meet with the kids in my various programs, sit down with them for an hour, and do different exercises. Over the summertime, they came in and did a series on decision making, and it was excellent. It was fabulous. The kids love them. They come by, bring little trinkets and stuff like that, and the kids really look forward to seeing them. So on a professional level, I second Mr. Shelton, and I really have seen the impact that they have made on our children, and I really thank them for taking out their time to do that, because most, if not all of it, is volunteerism, so they don't have to do it. And so I just appreciate them coming down and working with our children like that. And on a personal level, I also live in the community and frequent around the community and have a lot of connections with children. And you can really feel their presence when they're at the gas stations and different places. And I've even talked to children who say that it's a big deterrent for them to be out there and be seen like that. I know it kind of changes kids' mind when they're in that area as far as some of the choices that they're making. So I hope that we are able to continue to work with them, and they have done a fabulous job for the Linwood YMCA. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. I'd like to call up Ms. Dorothy Patterson and Ms. Aviles, both with the Kansas City, Missouri School District.
Good morning.
Good
We're
morning.
going to try to stick to these 2 minutes we've been given. I'm one of the social workers in the Kansas City Public Schools, and Ms. Aviles is one of the attendance dropout specialists, and she's at Northeast and I'm at East, respectively. So what we are trying to do, we're working with the Kansas City Public Schools, the Kansas City Police Department, and one of our combat-funded community partners, Aim for Peace. And what they have done for us, we do the truancy sweeps with the city ordinance, section 50243, where we're trying to get the kids in school and keep them in school, and we do the truancy court piece as well. So Aim for Peace, we partnered with them in October of 2012. We've had 12 sweeps thus far, 191 kids, and we have them come in and do crisis intervention with those truant students. You know, the idle minds, idle hands means trouble. So they're there and they do all kinds of talks. Their interventions are prevention, substance abuse prevention, violence prevention, dropout prevention, and, you know, they're trying to put something in their minds to get them to reflect on, so they will continue going to school. So they've come in with us for the last 12 sweeps and provided the groups for us, and the key is, you know, the Aim for Peace T-shirts, you know, those nice T-shirts stand out, so they're extra hands in our community, hands and eyes. So when the kids see them, if they're truant, they come to school because they know they're going to talk to them or bring them to school. So we've had a wonderful partnership with them, and we really appreciate it and hope to have many, many more.
And these sweeps took place during the last school year?
Pardon me?
These sweeps took place during the last school year?
October 2012, and we had one Friday, August the 30th. That was our 12th one. And they've been at all of them.
Okay. And the schools, I assume, understand that you don't have to rely just on sweeps, but students who are missing a substantial amount of school can be referred to our assistant prosecutor just by the school records themselves.
And have been. We've taken that option as well.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. You have a question?
Oh, you have
Mr. Vice Chair?
You guys speaking jointly, or?
No, as far as the citations from the last school year, we had 123 that were cited.
So the 191 was from both sweeps?
All 12.
All 12, yes. For both areas?
Yes.
Northeast
And I
and
think
East.
a couple times we included Central as well.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. I'd like to call up Chaplain Larry Aaron with the Truman Medical Center.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As I was pondering what to share, that would be good news for you, and I think in city government you need good news. It is that I've been in ministry all my life. For the last 20 years, I've been a professional chaplain. There's a whole thing about how you become that. I've served in 7 medical centers. 3 of them were level 1 trauma centers, as Truman is. We have over 700 traumas per year. Trauma medicine originated from a number of hospitals, Truman being one of them, which is something to be proud of. In 3 of the hospitals I served, one in Ventura County, one in Long Beach. We also were level 1 trauma centers, had a lot of gang violence. I have friends in ministry that work with the gangs in L.A., Greg Boyle and Michael Kennedy, Homeboy Industries. And in a trauma center, even though we have the skills and equipment to save physical life, one of the things that drains the life out of an emergency room staff or trauma surgeons or trauma physicians or the nurses and all the other therapists that work with them is to see again and again the knife wounds, the assaults, the gunshots that they can fix but indicate something deeper. And as human beings, and we have a lot of young physicians at Truman, see that again and again. It wears down the reason they went into medicine to be healers. Kansas City is the first city I've served in that has a resource like Aim for Peace. One of my reasons why I'm very committed to them is in the Gospels, we're all invited to be healers and peacemakers. They carry no weapons. Their biggest identity is a black T-shirt in their lives. And the chaplains at Truman are there 24 hours a day. We are the ones that respond to every trauma. And part of our role and partnership with Aim for Peace is that we get a sense of what's going on and that we have clinical indicators that would indicate this was probably violence that is coming from either gangs or families. And we're the ones that call Aim for Peace 24 hours a day to let them know what's going on, what is the name of the patient. We have an agreement concerning personal health information, and give them a sense of what the family's doing. In the middle of the night, we can have a family that is 40 people. And our concern, because we're the ones in the room with them, is that not only are they informed of their loved one, but how are they doing with this whole thing? We pass that along to our Aim for Peace folks, and they come in and get to know that family as we do as chaplains and try to interrupt that cycle of violence, which wears law enforcement officers down, health providers, people in the community. I think one of the privileges of serving at Truman, for me, is that I feel I stand on the shoulders of many community pastors and clergy and religious leaders, because the reason the chaplains were involved in Chicago and why we're involved here is more than any other profession. When we walk into that room, we don't have a white coat on, we don't have a badge, and the trust that they've had from their religious community is transferred to us. So I feel that by linking to Aim for Peace, not only is that building up the trust in a very untrusting experience after your loved one has been assaulted or shot, but that we participate with them in being healers of violence in our community. And every community I've been with, even though I was very encouraged with our captain's report on the decrease of crime, many times I wonder if the wars that we see on the media are many times on our streets. One of our chaplains is an Air Force Reserve chaplain who has been stationed over in the Middle East and most recently came from Dover Air Force Base. And he says that the similarities of what he sees in our trauma room and what he experienced in the military as a chaplain are very similar. Aim for Peace is a wonderful resource, a creative way of looking at public health that I think makes a huge difference, and certainly I'm appreciative too in terms of stopping the violence and truly being peacemakers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chaplain Aaron.
Tracy, if I could, based on that, I would just wonder if we could stop and ask all of the staff for Aim for Peace to stand up and be acknowledged, because they do put their lives on the line. They are out there stopping this violence, and they don't get thanked often enough, and so I'd just like to recognize them, please.
Thank you. The next person I'd like to call up is Mr. Pat Clark with the PAC 20.
Morning. Morning. Council, committee. Schumacher, what you doing up there, man? I'm here on behalf of Aim for Peace, a program that I support. And that comes with growth, because a few years ago I spent 2 days, 3 days, something like that. And I say with growth because at that time I was still growing. You know, I didn't have the patience that I have now. You know, I see the things that other people don't see. You know, a lot of times we look at stuff and don't look at it long enough to see what it's actually doing. And I've watched this program grow over the years. And the biggest thing is that the people who is delivering the message, that's the most important thing, who delivers the message. You know, guys like Saladin and Rashid and Shakur, these are guys that they have my interest because they come from where I come from. You know, in order to have a future, you got to have a past. And sometimes it's going to take your past to fix your future. These are guys that are dedicated to doing what they're doing. They're just not putting on that shirt and going out every day. They're going to work. And the guys that like Markel and Nick that's coming behind them, they take pride in what they do. You know, and I'm guilty of telling people all the time, don't just aim for peace, but aim for results. And the results that you get out of it is the work that you put in it. You know, I said that, you know, God allowed me to live that life to prepare me for this one. If you ain't done nothing, you have nothing to talk about. These guys are out there building relationships. We go about it in two different ways, but we serve in the same purpose. And our mission is to save people. You know, these are not guys, you know, there was always jokes about, you know, Aim for Peace, they just cook hot dogs. They have barbecues. But it's more to these guys and girls than you can see. You know, I urge anybody to go out on any given night, a crime scene, and watch and see what they really do. See, because if they're not talking to me, and I got a hell of a job, you know, community outreach specialist is the chief forte. I go to crime scenes, I talk to people that won't talk to the police. They talk to those same people. Sometimes we don't get the same results, but the mission is the same. And I have to keep saying that. It's very important that people see us working together. That's why things are like they are in our city, because they see us so far apart. But once people are able to see us on the same page, working the same place, the same job, then we'll start seeing change. We are in a crime-ridden city, and that's the truth. But I urge anybody that's on the other side of the street to come over and see what we really do, because it's not easy. So again, like I said, I'm here on behalf of Aim for Peace, and anybody that's working with these guys, continue to do what you're doing, because I see this program going somewhere else, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. The next person I'd like to call up is Deacon Jerome Patterson.
Morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for this opportunity to be here and speak on behalf of Aim for Peace. They're wonderful people, and they're a feather in your cap to be in this community, to go out and to make the sacrifice of giving up the time that they could be spending with their family, sitting at home comfortable, and to be out here and deal with all the most harshest realities of life that life deals with to us sometimes. I applaud them for their sacrifice, for their commitment. I applaud them for their compassion. And it's something that we're missing a lot of in this life today, is compassion. We understand when it's our own family, but we don't understand when it's someone else's family. These people go out and put their life on the line for someone else. According to the Bible that I read, there is no greater sacrifice than a man lay down his life for another, or put himself in harm's way for another man. So I applaud them up. And I will pray for them continually, and we all should. But like I said, they're a feather in this city's cap. They're a shining star for us. Thank you.
And are you with a group, sir?
No, sir. I'm the chairman of the Deacon Board of Community Missionary Baptist Church.
Okay. Thank you.
And I also have one of their guys I have a construction company, and he works for me. And I speak to Brother Shakur on a daily basis. He's just a spiritual guy. I mean, we all have souls, okay? We all have a soul. That's what makes this body alive today, is our soul. And we need to reach out to people's souls in order to get people to change.
Thank you. I'm about to lose some committee people for another meeting, so how are we coming on witnesses?
I have about 4 more people that we wanted to bring up, but what I'll do is pitch it back to my group, and if I could get Stacy Wooten Gray, Mr. Gray, to come up. He's one of our program participants. I really do want you to hear from him. And then I also like to bring up one of our neighborhood associations. We have the president of Seven Oaks as well as Vineyard Neighborhood Association. So between the two of you, if you could decide which one you'd like to have speak, that would be great.
Or they can both come up together.
Yeah, we'd like to see both of those.
Yeah, they can both come up together.
We've got to go, but I want to hear from him.
Okay.
My name's Stacy Woodengray, and I've been working with the Aim for Peace program for about 2 years. And within the 2 years, I've accomplished my high school diploma and seeking employment with the Aim for Peace program to better myself and work within the community to stop violence. And within the community, we have a problem with communication. That's what it is. It's communication. We are not communicating with the community the right way. So what we need to do is we need to get out here, get some people on the same page as the people out here on the streets so we can have better communication with the community to prevent violence, which we're supposed to do. So, you know, that's like all I got, but Aim for Peace is a good program, and I look forward to working with them in the future.
Thank you.
Pretty good, man.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Ike Graham with Vineyard Neighborhood Association. We've been with Aim for Peace ever since it started. And by going out to the different events, canvassing over the years, when we first started, people was not quite so receptive. But now we go out, when we passing out brochures or we're at some of the events, everybody know about Aim for Peace. They are finding out more and more about it, and people are really, really opening up now, and they express themselves more than when we were first going out knocking on doors and passing out brochures and stuff. So we stand here in support of Aim for Peace. Thank you.
My name is Gwen Davis,
Mike,
and I'm
bring the mic down a little better.
My name is Gwen Davis, and I'm the president of Seven Oaks Neighborhood Association, and I as well is in partnership with Aim for Peace. We go out and our beat is 333, and we pass out information about Aim for Peace. A lot of times when people don't know what a person does, they're not as acceptive, but they're beginning to know and learn some of the things that Aim for Peace stands for. And so now I'm seeing a lot of people that's a lot more open to Aim for Peace. Thank you.
Just one final person, if I may.
Okay.
Committeeman Shahir Akhtab.
I'd like to open up very briefly by recognizing the Creator and thanking Him for us, His creation, and the support that He gives us to sustain our life. Amen. I'm an elected committee man from Ward 2. I'm here to represent 12,100 people that I work with within Ward 2. I'm here to express support for Aim for Peace, because the more I learn about Aim for Peace, the more of a commitment and a dedication is in me to fight for that program and fight for that program to exist. Anyone who's against peace on the block, peace in the community, they are actually going against the will of God, because it is God's will that His creation do not be damaged, do not be injured. And when you can focus on prevention,
preventing someone from being injured or preventing someone from being harmed. You're doing God's will, and you're bringing about peace within that community. So I basically just wanted to express that all these anti-crime organizations should exist. NOVA should exist, Ad Hoc should exist, Aim for Peace should exist. No anti-crime organization should be against Aim for Peace, because all of us should have a focus on peace being on the block and peace being in the community. So we're not against other groups. We don't want other groups to be against us. We want to work together because our goal is the same. But I have to make a distinction here. It is better to prevent. It is better to focus in on preventing a person from being a victim of a crime, or a person being injured. It's best to work to prevent that from happening in the first place than to wait for it to occur and then react and respond to it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's better to prevent it than to wait for it to happen and then respond to it. So I just wanted to make those couple points because I'm speaking from the community, the community support for Aim for Peace. And it's a lot I could say, and I just say in my conclusion, we are the children of Adam. We are the children of Adam and Eve. And God told Adam to take care of the garden. Be the custodian, caretaker of the garden. Do not injure the garden. The garden is the world. It's the earth. We, the children of Adam, are all over the earth. So God say, Adam, keep the peace. Moses, when he spoke, keep the peace. Jesus, when he greeted, keep the peace. Muhammad the prophet, keep the peace. It's all about peace. So I just want to tell my honorable council people, Aim for Peace should exist. It should grow and develop. And it should continue to be a beacon of hope in the community. So I just wanted to say that to you. I have a lot more to say, but time is at hand, and I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't have to go behind that door.
Okay. Does that conclude your witnesses?
I would just like to give a general thank you to everyone who came out, even if you did not have an opportunity to speak. We appreciate you all so very much. And team, of course, we appreciate you. Thank you.
How many employees does Aim for Peace have now?
Currently, we have 14.
14 employees. And is that fully staffed for what you're budgeted for, or are you a little
What
under?
we're budgeted for, we have 2 positions that we can hire for. We're in the process of recruiting, but in terms of if we were trying to expand and increase the dosage, then no.
Okay.
One of the...
I'm not quite sure wait a second, Doctor. I'm not quite sure I understood what you just said. You have 14 employees that are working now.
Yes, and they're working
and
in
you're in the
330
process
sector.
of recruiting 2 more, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, in looking at the statistics that you've furnished us, and you really haven't gone over those.
I can do it quickly if you want.
I think that'd be a good idea.
We got up to full dosage staffing in the Sector 330 for basically this calendar year. In the previous 2 years, in Sector 330, we had, unfortunately, 15 and 16 homicides those 2 years in 2011 and 2012. At that rate, through this last month of August, we're 2/3 of the way through the year. So you could see that if we were on the same rate as previous years, we would have 10 at this point in the cycle, but we've had 5.
Now, why did Sector 324, why was it listed and then crossed out?
324 is there also because traditionally there's been connections between some of the issues in 324 and 330, and we were in 324 before the KU work group had recommended us to focus just on Sector 330. So we still have some activity in 324, and we wanted to at least track that across there. But yeah, it's hash marked because our primary focus has been in 330. The other thing that's a little hard on the numbers.
Get a clarification.
Yes.
Dr. Archer, you're saying 330. 330 is not listed. We have 331.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sector 330 includes beats 31, 32, 33, and 34.
Make sure you're clear about that, because when you say that, you don't have that. So, okay.
Yeah, we'll actually improve this handout where we'll put a total for 330 sector across there so you can see that. It'll be clear. Now, the other thing that all of you are familiar with is when you have smaller numbers, it's like if we were to flip a coin 20 times. Most of the time, you will not end up with 10 heads and 10 tails. There is variation that occurs. So from a statistical standpoint, if you have an average of 20 in a year in a particular area, the confidence interval of what we talk about is 95% of the time would those differences be due to something other than chance. You would actually have to be 12 or 28 to be outside that window. So if you had 20 the year before, you could actually go up to 27 and not be statistically significantly different. Now, that's 7 additional deaths, which is very significant, but it's not statistically significantly different. So until we get through the full year, we may not know whether we have statistical significance. We're on that border right now of having that. The fact that this program evaluated in Chicago as well as in Baltimore by Northwestern University and Johns Hopkins also is finding the effectiveness of being around 30 to 40% reductions, and we're seeing that so far in this sector of a 50% reduction. We'll see if that holds. But again, it's not just AIM for Peace. There are other activities occurring in that sector too, although, as Major L said, AIM for Peace is a major part, I believe, of this change.
Well, we've heard in the past from some critics of the program, including some on the council, that we can't show that there's really a reduction in crime due to AIM for Peace. And of course, a lot of factors contribute to a reduction in crime or to not having a reduction in crime. But I think now we're starting to get the data from enough years that while it's hard to say something concretely when it's based on a relatively small sample, it certainly seems to me that we're seeing significant reductions in homicides in the areas you're concentrating in. And I think that's fairly remarkable because it's hard to cure crime on a block-to-block approach when things that are going on in the community surrounding those blocks impact what happens in those blocks. So given the very scarcity of funding for AIM for Peace, I think we're seeing some tremendous results in the small area you're working in, even though there may be many other factors, and I'm sure there are many other factors that impact it. But personally, I don't think we've ever given AIM for Peace a chance to be as successful as it could be if we had adequate funding for it. Because to just have it not even cover a whole patrol division, but only cover a small section of one patrol division, makes it pretty tough to have the kind of community impact we'd like to have. But
we've had We've had a couple of foundations that have stepped up recently with $25,000 grants, and so again, some of these numbers, there's the full-time staff in our core funding, and then there have been these students and others that we've been able to hire to give them experience and leadership in that too. So that's why answering the numbers is a little difficult, because how many of those over a period of time we're bringing on board for short periods of time, Tracy?
We had a great opportunity this summer with the mayor's office through the Bright Futures program to have 5 interns, and those interns were actually violence interrupter trainees. With the success of that particular program, because as you know, we are database, we were able to convince 2 different granting agencies to actually support an extension of that pilot, if you will, and we are very happy to have partnership with the H&R Block Foundation as well as Bank of America to actually extend to 10 students this time. So we're very excited to see our results in December with having these violence interrupter trainees.
Great. Did you have a comment, Mr. Vice Chair?
Yeah, I'm late for Neighborhoods Healthy Communities Committee, which starts at 12, and I'm pretty sure the committee has already started. So I'll make a couple of comments, and then I will probably go to my next committee meeting that I'm scheduled to be in. Let me first say, I think I've mentioned that I've started grad school. I started probably 3 weeks ago, getting an executive master's in public administration. And each night a week, I am sitting in a class where we're going over statistics. Statistics isn't fun. You're dealing with numbers. And you have a lot of different variables in terms of how you deal with the numbers and when you get there. So my comments are basically from that statistics class. Because if I were to take this sheet to my statistics class, and what really frustrates me about it is perhaps it's the presentation in which you give, Dr. Archer, about the numbers. The numbers are lives of individuals that we are losing in our community. And so I hate to play with numbers, especially when we're talking about the lives of people who are senselessly been lost in our community. And we use it to say, well, we're justifying where we are to get to one place, but then these are lives that are just lost in our community. I am looking forward to seeing or hearing back from Aim for Peace at the end of this year or beginning of next year as we compare, unfortunately, the numbers of lives that continue to be lost senselessly due to crime and violence in our communities. I applaud Aim for Peace for what you all are doing. The presentations were great today. I think that a lot of what was stated is extremely correct, that we all have to work together. If it's Aim for Peace, if it's Casey Nova, if it's the Ada Group Against Crime, if it's Peacemakers, whatever groups in our community, everyone has to work together to put an end to crime and violence in our communities. And I think that is what's so key. But I don't know if I am based off of numbers of lives that we're losing. I don't necessarily see that significant real increase as I'm looking across the board. I think that we're making an impact within the community, as has been stated from our partners that have come before us and presented today. But I still think that, unfortunately, the lives that continue to be lost, it's almost kind of cliche a little bit, right? Last week we celebrated the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's speech on the March on Washington that he delivered in 1963. And one of the things that he stated during that speech is that one day, hopefully his 4 kids will be able not to be viewed by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. We're 50 years later, and certainly people are still being viewed by the color of their skin, and certainly not by the content of their character. And so we've got a ways to go. I think that we shouldn't have to sit here and talk about crime and violence. And if I had a dream, that would probably be my dream, that we wouldn't have to sit and talk about in our communities that crime and violence continues to exist and people continue to lose their lives senselessly every single day because of cowards who try to take people's lives. I can go on a whole nother rant there. But I will mention that I have had a number of really good conversations with a number of people across the country about some of the things that Aim for Peace are doing in ways that you all are working within this particular beat in Kansas City. As part of my service on the National League of Cities, I've had many conversations as it relates to crime and violence, and folks from New Orleans, folks from Chicago, and those ceasefire programs who I believe have been here a number of times. Even a council member from Baltimore was here a couple of weeks ago to find out what we're doing. So yes, some of the things that we're doing are certainly working, but when we look at numbers across the board and we try to use those to justify what we're doing, again, the lives that are lost senselessly really break my heart. And hopefully one day we don't have to keep comparing the numbers and say, oh, here's where we are, because we're not playing with 2 fish, 5 loads of bread or so. We're playing with people's lives. So those are my comments, Mr. Chair, and I've got to go to my next committee meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chairman. Councilman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief. I know everybody's been here a long time, but I do want to say I think the program's working. And Tracy, I've seen you out at community groups. Some of them I expected, I would anticipate you'd be at. It was a natural place, but you're getting out to other meetings as well, getting the word out about Aim for Peace. And I think that's very important to make sure people understand what the program is and isn't about, and having volunteers, some of the Aim for Peace members with you, I think has been very valuable, because I think once people understand how this does work and how it doesn't work, they're generally supportive. And I'm seeing people that, my history with this goes back well beyond the council. My wife was chair of this committee the last term, and with Councilman Sharp, they were proponents of this program as well. But the challenge we always face, and you faced when you set this up, Dr. Archer, and with the police department, is funding. And so that's a continued challenge that we face. We need you to keep doing a good job getting the word out like you're doing, so that this will remain a viable option for us to fund. And I will fight for it as long as I'm on the council. You've got my guarantee on that, because I see the results. And while I think I agree with Councilman Reed's comments. Dr. Archer, you're very technical on sometimes. I think you have to sometimes say, looking at it in very simplistic terms, not statistical, I look at the high point of each of these years, each of these sections of the city that are being served by Aim for Peace. I see a high of a couple of years 4 down to 1, even though we have a few months. We're past the hot summer months, 7 to 1, 5 to 0, 3 to 3, across the board, we're seeing a result, whether it's statistically true or not. I think it's working, and I think that's the message we got to get out there to people. Keep it as simple as possible. There's never going to be a way to perfectly measure this in a way that's going to make everybody happy, but I think the trend is there. This is one tool in the toolbox that's working, and we need to support it. And I think that, without speaking for the committee, you have our support on this committee. We just need to make sure the rest of the council continues to support it year in, year out in the budget. And that's really, and other funding sources where we can help you. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to promise to be brief. We've been here this long, and I don't think there's a more important issue that should have this chamber full when it comes to violence and the murder and the crime that's going on in our community. I'm going to say what I've said for how many years is it going now? 4, 5. It's been a while. But we had enough time now to see actually what you all do, and we've seen it work. I don't think there's any doubt. A suggestion I would make, though, is there's something that you all do that's not on this piece of paper, and that's when you interrupt the violence, and that's what this is all about. What would be good to know is how many times you went to a scene and interrupted the violence. Whether it was successful or not, the fact that you went to the scene, the fact that you went to Truman, the fact you went someplace and had an interaction with a family or a group of people that could have done something different. If we don't start tracking those numbers, and again, you're not going to know whether or not you're successful. I think when I come into a room, my son acts better, but he's not going to tell you that. I just think that. So when you all show up, things change. And I think We've had testimonies today to prove that that's the case. We've had years to see this become successful, and I think we're seeing that. The problem we still have in Kansas City is when y'all get through doing what you're doing, there's still a real good chance we're still going to be over 100 murders in Kansas City. That's not your problem. That's a Kansas City problem, which is one of the things I've talked about over and over again. Yes, we need Aim for Peace. Yes, we need KC Nova. Yes, we need ad hoc. But we also need to find a way for all the groups to work together. That's been my rallying cry ever since we've been talking, that we got to find some, if money is the issue, and I don't think that needs to be the issue because money's not going to solve this either. Getting people involved and getting people on the same page as relates to what we're doing to address the issue, I think, is the concern. And so I'm not sure there are people that are against it. I think there's some added portions to it that I've suggested, that we try to work together with the limited resources that we have and find a way for Aim for Peace to match up with KC Nova, and find a way for KC Nova to match up with ad hoc, and find a way where all the groups are sitting down together trying to come up with some solutions. What you all do is excellent. I think what KC Nova is doing is going to be excellent, but it's going to take some time, some years for them to prove themselves as well, just like it did when you all got started. I think all the programs have merit. Our problem in our community as a whole, and I'm talking about our community, I'm talking about where my mother and father live, where they had a drive-by shooting the other day. I'm talking about people that are affected in my church and in my congregation on a daily basis. So when you think we're disconnected because we're at City Hall, that's just not the truth. I'm in the urban core every day of the week because I got to go see my mama just about every day. The reality is we don't see those groups working together. And when I say those groups, I'm talking about the churches, I'm talking about all the other organizations. What's killing us is we won't work together. What's killing our people is we won't work together. And I'm not suggesting that's you all's fault. I'm saying that's the systemic problem that's going on in our community, is everybody has their own solution and nobody's coming together to see if we can all put the solutions in the same pot. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but I do know if we never try it, we're never going to know. And I say that to you all because you are getting funding from the city. And so if anybody may or may need to consider being the collaborator of those groups, it may need to be something that you all consider. And that's not a slight against what you do. That's not a negative comment about what you. I love what you do, and I know it's been proven. And you all have proven today that there are community individuals and individuals in this city that have seen what you do and believe what you are successful, and we don't want to interrupt that success. What I do want to see, though, is if there's limited resources and limited places we can be, what are some things we can do to come together to try to solve some of it? If we don't get another dime, is there a way that we can come together and do some of the same things with some of the other groups? And if it's not possible, it's not possible. And if we tried it, don't work, then we tried it and it didn't work. But I still think that's one of the biggest issues is we haven't found a way to come together as a community. And that's whatever community you want to call. The neighborhoods, the churches, the community groups, the social groups, whatever they may be. It's going to continue to happen as long as we don't come together on the same page and start trying to come up with some solutions. It's not going to take away from the mission, not going to take away from what you all do. You do, and you do it well. What I don't see on this paper, though, is how many times do you go to Truman and interrupt something that was going on? How many times do you show up to research? And I know you do it, but we're not getting it. And if we're not getting it, that may mean the public's not getting it either, which means people don't know what you're doing, so they come up with their own solution about what they think, or their own conclusion about what they think you're doing, because we haven't told the story very well, right? So I hope that wasn't too long.
Well, thank you. I think that's
about 2 minutes compared to some of the other 2 minutes.
I think that's great suggestions, and we can and will do better at working with other folks. I think Major L could comment about, I think the relationship between Aim for Peace and the police department is as strong here in Kansas City as it is in any other place that this model is being implemented, and that's because of the police department's leadership and working back and forth with us.
Yes, and that's the feedback that I've been getting from working with Dr. Schlupkin and others outside of Kansas City, and he's in Chicago, about how they look at what we're doing here in Kansas City and wish even in Chicago and other places the relationship could be similar or as good as the one we have here with law enforcement and Aim for Peace. And I know that we're pressed on time, but there's 2 points I want to make. You know, I've been in this chamber many a time. Many a time I've been in this chamber for presentations, but this didn't seem like a presentation today. This seemed like more of a conversation and dialogue between us and the elected officials here. And I feel that I was a recipient of some very insightful comments, feedback from yourself here, from Councilman Sharp, Councilman Brooks, Councilman Reed, Councilman Taylor as well. And I think this was very, very productive. And the last thing I want to say, and sitting here, I agree with Councilman Brooks as far as what you said, things that we need to make sure that we get out to the public and get out to elected officials and everybody on what we're doing. And stats, as we all know, don't tell the full story. And there are times where, and I want to say this, that I want to publicly thank Aim for Peace for the countless times in which they have been called, or not even called, but they've heard about it. We have some very, very volatile homicide scenes. In particular, there's one that comes to mind that's a few weeks ago at 108 West 39th Street, right off 39th and Broadway. And it was typically, you don't see a crime scene like that as far as on the outside of the tape on the number of people, family members were there, mother, grandmother, brothers, sisters, girlfriends, everybody that showed up. And what was unusual about that, that was not in the urban core or in an African-American neighborhood where most people just come outside or walk a few blocks. We had several hundred people there at one time, I would estimate, or at least over 100. And Aim for Peace, Mr. Pat Clark, and others allowed us to do what we do on our side of the tape while they do what they do on the other side of the tape. And they have been very instrumental, not only there at that one, but a number of scenes where they come out and keep the peace, work on that retaliation aspect. And that's something you can't measure, but that's something we definitely should be able to report to you on how many times they go out and what they do when they're there. And it's very important. But thank you.
Thank you for this presentation. I think it's very important that Aim for Peace probably report to this committee like twice a year so we can keep updated on your progress. I think it also might be a good idea to bring in someone from one of the other cities that have had even more experience with this violence prevention program, like someone from Chicago. When Aim for Peace was started, we had someone from there come and make a presentation to the whole council, but about half the council now are gone that presentation was made to, and so some of the newer folks in office haven't had that same background. And, you know, there's something about us here in Kansas City. If someone from Kansas City is telling us something, well, it seems like those opinions get discounted because I think we have a citywide inferiority complex. But when someone comes from another city, then, you know, they can be the expert, and I think we give them a little more credence. But I think that would be good, again, to bring somebody in from one of the more developed programs to talk about what they see here, some of the things they're doing, and the successes they see here, because quite frankly, I don't think your program's been being given a chance to be as successful as it should be just because of such limited funding. You have to cover a broader area to really have the kind of impact you need. So I appreciate this presentation. Appreciate everyone coming here. Yes, sir.
I don't want to disagree with you, Mr. Chair. But I think we have everything we need right here in Kansas City. I think we need to do a better job of telling our story and make people take us seriously. When we give them the information that they need, again, then people can make their own conclusion. But I know there's a whole lot of information, a whole lot of activities you all have been involved in that we just don't know. If I know it, then when I get out of here and somebody asks me, what's Aim for Peace doing? I can tell them. You know, they showed up at Truman 10 times last month and stopped probably 5 more murders that would have happened had they not been there. That's the kind of story we want to be telling, and nobody can tell our story better than we can. So there may be some credence to bring somebody else in, but I think we need to do a good job of telling our own story as well. Okay.
I agree with that, because statistics are a pretty cold way of looking at what you're doing, and you can make data say about anything, but we have to humanize this, and I agree we need to focus on that. But I think for some of our colleagues, sometimes when you have someone from outside come in, they just listen to them a little more. But we can do better, too, on humanizing what we're doing. And I think you're doing a great job with very, very limited resources. So I'm looking forward to us being able to support the program the way it deserves. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. We have no further business, so this meeting is adjourned.